Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. And I'm Jim Stump. Appreciate your comments and your emails. Um, there's a sort of phenomenon that's been around for a very long time, but it seems to have come more into the fore lately. And that's the idea of an overactive mind. People who used to come in the past, say going back a few years, and they might say that they can't turn their mind off. It's always like noisy in their head, and they're always thinking all these things. They are intrusive thoughts, they would say, and they are overwhelming me. I can't turn it off. Oftentimes, that people had intrusive thoughts and overwhelming thoughts, they say they had trouble going to sleep, right? It would wreck their sleep. They had insomnia. And that was before a certain incident. And then lately, the incident, of course, is COVID, the pandemic. What has happened since that time, something that I've noticed, is that before that, not as many people complained about having an overactive mind and being overwhelmed with thoughts. And by the way, the thoughts generally are negative, right? And degrees of higher negativity, right? It's not just they had a negative thought, something happened, and they felt badly about it. It's that this thing is overwhelming them. And often it had to do with things from the past, like the distant past, not something that happened this week or last month, but something years ago. And they're wondering, why do I keep thinking of all this junk from the past? Where's it coming from, right? Well, because it's become so prevalent among a lot of people who otherwise, came for other issues, but say that as well, is that they're feeling overwhelmed with negative thoughts. I thought I would mention it here, and we could discuss it, and maybe get some of your ideas and experience and feedback on that subject. I'm thinking that probably at the root in what's driving that overactive mind is some sort of a fear, right? And by that, I mean, let's go back to the idea of the pandemic. Before that, a lot of us were just cruising along. We were in our lives, we were in our careers, we were in our jobs, we are just pretty much in a routine, and we were enjoying the things we could enjoy, and we weren't expecting to break out of that routine. Everything seemed to be fine. We had enough income, and we were reasonably comfortable and happy and enjoying our lives, right? But then the pandemic came along, and it knocked everybody out of routine. And a lot of folks who still had nothing necessarily to worry about, because even if they didn't have their job, they had income that the government was providing, and so they could stay at home and still have enough to money to feed themselves and pay their bills, and et cetera, et cetera. So they didn't have those kind of worries. But then other things started to happen. They started to realize that they liked having free time. They liked being able to do what they wanted to do with their day, and not having to be forced to go through that routine of getting up and eating breakfast and going to work and whatever was taking place there, and coming home and going through the same sort of a pattern that we did every day. They like breaking that up and having a chance to be lazy if they want, be active if they want, go out and do things, activities that they didn't have time for before. I'm thinking of jogging and biking and hiking and things like that in nature. I've heard that a lot. People say, now that I have the time, I just like to get out of the house and go do some fun things, something to clear my mind out and like that. But along with that freedom came the idea that their lives probably were not working as well for them as they thought they were before the pandemic. That we were all kind of resigned and settled into the way we were living and what was going on, and we didn't even question it. And after the pandemic, everybody's looking at it and say, I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to do that 9 to 5. I don't want to keep going to a job that really doesn't satisfy me in any way. And this is one of the dilemmas of modern life. And I say this not to be negative, but to recognize something for what it is. And what that point is, that a lot of what we do doesn't have a great deal of value to the universe, right? Um, we're pushing papers, we're keeping records, we're trying to sell somebody something. And what we're selling is not a cure to cancer. We're not stopping a war in Europe or Eastern Europe or anywhere else. We're not doing anything of that sort. We're not solving global warming. We're just doing stuff. And then when we're gone, no one's going to remember that we did it. And people are coming to the realization that that no longer satisfies, right? And I think that's sort of what knocked us off, is that we're starting to look at our lives differently and we are dissatisfied with what we're seeing. If you think I'm wrong, please let me know. By the way, that's not a universal thought. It's just a one suggestion out of millions of others. So if you have other ideas, please share them. But I wonder if people are discovering that they are dissatisfied with life and what's going on. And so at that point, it sort of opens all the demons, right? It opens the lower circles of, I want to say hell, but it's not exactly that bad. But it opens the lower circles and the demons come up and they start to we start to be aware of their presence in our mind and what's going on. And usually it's from something, once again, comes from something from early on in life. What did we want to do? Did we want to be firemen? Did we want to be Superman or Supergirl? Did we want to be the first female president of the United States or some other country? Did we want to be doctors or lawyers or Indian chiefs? What did we want to be that we sort of didn't do? And then we're looking at our lives and saying, we haven't fulfilled any of that. A lot of dissatisfaction comes from people believing that they haven't accomplished enough in life for where they are, for their age and the amount of years they put in and their career and etc. So a lot of dissatisfaction comes from that sort of thing. And we're looking at it and we're recognizing it. And so these thoughts are overcoming these people and they're saying to themselves, basically, what do I do from here? Where do I go next? You know, at one point, the pandemic seems to be coming up a little bit, but for a while there, we thought it was going away and we thought we had it handled. And people were beginning to think that they were going to go back to normal. But going back to normal wasn't something that made them happy. And they're realizing that they want something different. And I'm saying, I think it's a good idea, actually. I think someone once said that we all should look at ourselves as the president of our own corporation, even if we are working a job for someone else and working for a paycheck. We are making the decision to do that. And if we want to change that routine and change that job environment, we can do so. Not only that, maybe we can take on an extra job, something that is an avocation that we might enjoy. Oftentimes I find people going to things they like to do and they start a little side business on the weekends because they really enjoy it. I'm talking about some ladies I know talking about dressmaking. Other people are talking about baking, selling all sorts of baked goods as a side business. People take on sort of helping businesses. They want to go out and be a caregiver, I guess that's what they're called. Go take care of other people when they have the time, put in a few hours every day here and there and on weekends because they enjoy it. They like that kind of work and they like being with people and it's extra income. So we're starting to think of ourselves as the CEO of our own corporation. What do we want to accomplish? And at this point, I think the market is wide open. There is all sorts of things you could do with your time and your life and your career and your job status. Things that you could do that maybe you wanted to do and never thought you should take a chance to do. Now's the time to try it, especially if you don't have to go back to a 9 to 5. I'm working from home, as you can see, and a great number of people that I know and talk to work from home as well, even engineers and all sorts of foremen are doing their jobs from home. They're overseeing their crews from their home offices and like that. And they say it gives them time to do other things. Some people like being around their children. And by this, I'm referring to gentlemen, not just ladies. Fathers say, I like the fact that I'm home with my kids and I can see them in the day, right? And I can take a 5-minute break and go mess with my son or something, you know, tease with them or throw a ball for a minute or two. They like that. So there are different changes that we can make to find a better place for yourself in the world if you wanted to do that. So if you're having all these sorts of overwhelming negative thoughts. My advice is to listen to what they're saying. What the heck are these voices telling you? Because that's going to help you identify the dissatisfaction. And once we know, well, someone once said, if you get the question right, the answer is obvious, right? It's probably somebody like Einstein. If you can phrase the question correctly with all the right parts to it, the answer is obvious. The same with these dissatisfactions. If you can identify what you're not happy with, and you know who you are and who you want it to be, and where maybe you'd like to go from here, the answer as to what you might do next should be obvious. Sometimes it means you're just going to go back to that 9 to 5 because that's the thing that works for you. And when you do go back to it, you go back to it with a clear mind because you've decided to do that. It's the right choice for you at this point in time. If it's not, then maybe you'll choose something else, or maybe you'll choose a couple of something else's. Like I say, take on a side avocation. Or maybe just the opposite. Say, okay, how can I not work so much? How can I cut down on my hours? How can I increase my income so that I have more time off so that I can spend it with my family or do the things I like to do? Start looking at the sorts of things that would make you happier from here, from this point, and going forward. What are those demons saying to you? Those overwhelming thoughts, what are they screaming, right? What does it help you identify? Why are they talking? Why do things from the past come screaming up now? Some people maybe want to improve their relationships. A lot of stuff comes up about failed relationships and broken family relationships and etc. Maybe that's where someone wants to make an improvement. That doesn't mean going back to people that harmed you and allowing them to harm you all over again. Maybe it means that you're improving your relationships with the people that you have in your life now, or that you're improving the way that you interact with folks because now you're beginning to understand. And that's what the voices are screaming at you. You know, be a different person, be a happier person. Don't let people make you not a happy person. And I'm not talking about getting into arguments and fights and etc. and being contrary all the time. I'm saying learn how to put boundaries on the things that don't make you happy. Don't let them enter your thought process and your activities. Just set them aside. Say, hey, have a nice day. We don't have to be negative and we don't have to be aggressive. We don't have to be passive aggressive. We just bless them and leave them alone. And our lives improve when we do that. Maybe that's something someone would think would be a solution to those screaming voices, right? Maybe there's a fear about future income. That's worth sitting down thinking about as well. I always recommend people do something they like doing. You've heard the old expression, um, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, maybe we can't go to that height of achievement, but we can go toward it, you know? Maybe we can get maybe we can get closer to that idea than we are right now, if not with 100% success in that endeavor. Think of ways that we can improve our lives in the sense that we'll be happier living that life. And the happier we are, the more benefit we can be to other people. There's a joy in being of benefit and of service. And that's something that a lot of us probably are seeking. Want our lives to have meaning, right? I said earlier, a lot of what we do in our jobs is just no one's going to remember in let alone 100 years, let alone 20 years from now, right? Nobody's going to much care. And oftentimes we're working to make somebody else wealthy. And it's not necessarily aggrandizing us in the sense of income. But it does get us through the week. It does pay the rent or the mortgage and buy the food and etc. But maybe it's not enough. So we want to rethink that. And by not enough, I don't mean not enough money. I mean not enough satisfaction. So if you have a racing mind and you're suffering from intrusive thoughts and it's making you a bit crazy, shall we say, unsettled, unhappy, listen to what those voices are telling you. Identify the theme that's underneath it. Is it fear? Is it worry, financial or otherwise? Is it a longing for better relationship? What is it that voice is saying to you? Identify it. Figure out what would make it, what alleviate that sort of dissatisfaction. What would alleviate the dissatisfaction? And then make that your goal, especially going into this new year here. Set your sights on that and work toward that. And chances are excellent you're going to find yourself in a better mood, a better outlook on life, happier, and more benefit to everyone else. They say every cloud has a silver lining. Well, intrusive voices have something to tell you. And oftentimes it could be an answer or a solution to something that isn't working for you now. What are those voices telling you? Oftentimes when someone figures out what that voice is screaming at them, the voices go away because they've been heard. Just some thoughts. Let me know what you think. I appreciate the fact that you stopped by and you stayed this long. If you have any other subjects you want to talk about, let me know. Put them in the comments or send me an email at counselorscouch101@mail.com. I look forward to talking with you next time. Have a blessed week.